Hey everybody, it's Eric back with How to Letter Comics. Today we're going to look at the 7 deadly sins of lettering, or at least the first part of a multiple series known as the 7 deadly sins of lettering. This one in particular is going to cover balloon issues, placement, and tails, and things like that. So let's jump right in and get started. What you see before you is a panel out of my own book, Battle Brick Road. This is what I would consider a good example of lettering. And we'll come back to this after looking at all the other examples. But take this in. We've got good balloon placement. The tails are pointed to where they need to go. Everything is easily readable. So, you know, it's good. It's what we want to see. But let's go ahead and dive into those 7 deadly sins in no particular order. The first one I've come up with is covering up characters when it's not necessary. As you can see in this example, the character on the left has a balloon covering his forehead and his hair, and in this case, there's so much negative space up above the characters, it is not necessary. There are times, many times, when it might be unavoidable to cover up your characters, but if you can avoid it by any and all means, please do so, because it just makes it easier to read. It lets the art breathe. It lets you see all the lines and all the colors and all that beautiful work that your artist has gone through. Next up, improper use of the width of the tail. Here's what I'm talking about here. All 3 examples here, the character on the left, the character in the middle, and the character on the right, all have different sized balloon tails. Generally speaking, you would want to have your balloon tail be about the width of a letter that you're using within the balloon. Like in the middle example is probably a good example of good tail width. Obviously on the left is too big and on the right is too small. It's also got that little pencil lead look to it here on the right here, where it's just a little bit too sharp, and it comes, a lot of the stroke of the outline of that tail is just black, and you want to have it fill out nice, like here in the middle. I would say, as long as you're consistent throughout, width-wise, if I have seen examples of all balloon tails being very thin or very thick, or, you know, Goldilocks there, zone right in the middle. But I would say as long as you're consistent, it's more important than whether or not it's thick or thin. However, the way I like to letter, I do like a consistent medium size width. Again, about the width of a letter. I know different fonts are different sizes and such, so it's not a hard and fast rule, but it's a good guideline to adhere by. Number 3 would be improper reading order, or unclear reading order of who's speaking first, or what balloon needs to go next, or what have you. So taking this same example, this same panel, I've rearranged the balloons so that the second character in the middle, is supposed to be talking after the first character, but the balloons are arranged in such a way that it may not be clear. You might jump from balloon 1 to these here in the middle, and then jump over, and then you're reading it, and you're like, wait, that's not how it's supposed to be read. And then you realize, oh, I was supposed to do this guy first, and then the girl in the middle, and then the character on the right. So if you look back at our good example, and all the other examples in here, they're all in the proper reading order, and it just helps make things clear. So you want to arrange your balloons clearly and effectively, showing which character is speaking first. You want to make sure that reading order is clear, and it follows the flow of the page, follows the flow of the characters within the panel itself. Another deadly sin is improper font sizes. Now this one can be tricky, especially if you're new to lettering. You don't know, what size do I need to put my fonts? And hey, this font at 7 looks a lot bigger than this other font at 7. Like, how do I get this ironed out? Obviously, it is possible to go too big, and it is possible to go too small. In this example, I made the fonts look way too small, which on the screen, it may not be that big of a deal. But if you were to print this, or see this in print, or just zoom out, you start to see, like, oh yeah, that's not, it's not easy to read. It's not very legible. So having a good baseline of what you want your lettering to be size-wise is important. Luckily, I actually have something you can use to help with that. Again, since every font, not all fonts are created equally. Some like this could be a size 10 on one size and a size 7 on a different font, but they look the same to the eye. But I have created this lettering template, which you can download on my Gumroad, link in the description below. But if we go back to the good example and turn on the lettering guide, you can see where these blue lines line up. And if you zoom in and adjust the lettering where it fits, and there's some fluctuation you can do within there, but if you're within these thicker blue lines, it's a good range of where you want your lettering to be size-wise, no matter what font you're using. It's going to be legible in print and easy to read, and you don't have to strain your eyes too much. And I'll do that same template with the smaller font size here. You can check that out. See how much smaller the font is within those blue lines. So you want to make sure you're consistent. Again, consistent font sizes makes it easier for the reader to read, makes just the whole experience better for the reader, and that's what we want. We want our reader not to be wondering, what balloon do I read first? Oh, the font's too small. If any of those thoughts come up when a person's reading the book, you have not done an effective job as a letterer. You should go completely unnoticed, except at the end when they thought, wow, that was an easy read. I really enjoyed that. So proper font sizes are really important. Again, link in the description below. You can download my comic lettering template, and there's a whole video attached to that as well on my Gumroad. So check that out. Another example, something I see a lot of, is improper use of the letter I. In this case, whether or not you have a crossbar I on within a word. There's a general rule or guideline, a sort of tradition within at least American comics, that the letter I is set in its crossbar form, what I mean by that is if you look at the word guide here, this is an improper use of that I. It has the crossbars on the top and the bottom, and if you look at the I here in intentions, the I's, they're just the line, right? They're just the bar. So generally speaking, rule of thumb, however you want to say it, the crossbar I is almost exclusively used for personal pronouns. I, I'm, I'll, those, I'm going to go to the whatever, right? That's when you want to use a crossbar I and not just a regular I like this. And one of the traps that we can fall into as a letterer is we get a script from the writer, and in order for them to emphasize what words they want bolded, a lot of times instead of bolding those words in the script, those words specifically will be capitalized. So you can see if you're looking at an improperly or not as well done lettered comic, you'll see words that are bolded generally have crossbar I's in them. So you want to make sure that you are not doing that. Because in all of these examples here on Guide and here on Sisters, those are words that in a script would have been bolded, so they would have been in all caps. So in the copy-paste of taking it from the script and putting in Adobe Illustrator, the font defaults, right? A lot of fonts will just default to the crossbar I as the capital I. So you want to make sure you correct for that. There are fonts that do this automatically, and they are a lifesaver. But if you aren't using a font like that, you will want to double check everything. If a person is speaking in a personal pronoun, saying I am going to go save the day, make sure that I has crossbar on it. In terms of names, characters that names begin with the letter I, or even if an I is the first in a balloon, if it's not the I, I'm, I'll, or I'd, or any version of those, keep the crossbars off of it. Next, seems kind of obvious, but you see examples all the time of it being an issue, and that is balloon tails not pointing towards the character's mouth. It's just sort of generally pointing towards that character. You want to try and do everything you can to get those tails to point towards their mouths. It's more of a showing, hey, this is where the sound is coming from. This is not necessarily that it's this character speaking. I mean, it is, obviously, but it's you want to show that it's coming from their mouth. It's just a good way of being consistent within, again, within your lettering. So if you were to follow the point of these tails, they're not exactly pointing towards the character's mouth. This one's going to his eye, this one's going toward her ear. In the middle one, it's generally going towards her mouth, which is good. And if you're using like thought balloons, which you don't see a lot of these days, but if you're using thought balloons, you have to imagine, you know, thoughts are coming from their mind. So you want those thought balloons emanating from the character's head whenever possible. Obviously, artists, we tend to draw things kind of crazy and aren't always considering where balloons are going to go. So as a letterer, you have to fit stuff in where you can, but for sure you want to try to always point those towards the mouth. And number 7 is improper negative space fulfilling around a balloon. As you can see in this example, we've got a balloon that's got way too much negative space at the bottom, or this one here in the middle with all of them way tight around the text, or just too much space around a balloon and the text is too long. It could be round. What you want to have is consistency throughout the book in your tail width around where it meets the balloon, in your balloon size, and the size, how much, you know, quote, air is in the balloon around the text. You want to be consistent. Another rule of thumb, or a way to look at this, or a way to measure it, would be to imagine there's another letter on the ends of these words that's you know, blank, and then that's a good amount of space to have between. In this one, I have been saying as long as you're consistent. In this case, like, it's real rough to look at lettering where the balloon is right up against the text. It's a real eyesore, and it can kind of be off-putting. Same when there's too much floating around. Now, there are other instances, like if somebody's whispering or saying something softly. One technique is to have a larger balloon around regular text or slightly smaller text, and that way it's showing that the character's whispering, but I can get into that into another video. But overall, those are the 7 deadly sins. Negative space around a balloon, not pointing your tails toward the mouth, improper use of the crossbar eye, improper size of font, bad reading order, the width of the tail at the balloon where it meets the balloon, and covering characters when it's not necessary. That's it. That's the video. If you like what you see, make sure you hit subscribe, and there'll be more lettering videos in the future. The artwork from this video is my own. It's from a book called Battle Brick Road, which is a future military retelling of The Wizard of Oz. Got Thea Gale on a mission to find her father, falls into this strange world that was once a utopia, is now torn apart by years of warfare, and the whole world within here is controlled by these 4 AI constructs. Each of us, the whole world within here is controlled by these 4 sister AI constructs. You know, 2 have gone bad and 2 are good, and there's been years and years of warfare, and she's trying to fight through this to try and find her dad. And of course, along the way, she's going to come across some people that'll help her in her journey. So, if that is something that interests you, go to battlebrickroad.com to find out more. And again, I do have the lettering template available on my Gumroad. So again, link in the description below for that, and you can purchase that, and hopefully that will help you get some more consistent lettering on your own projects. Thanks for checking out the 7 deadly sins of lettering, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.